There's this thing of, did I do something to make this happen to me? No, you are a child. There was nothing you did. You just had an adult who did something that violated you and you didn't do anything. I love when we do inner work as an adult because it allows us to heal ourselves. It also allows us to get the help that we need from God above and then also from counselors and therapy, because now we get to talk to our inner child we've been pushing away for so long.
Welcome to the Purpose Finder podcast, where life is viewed through the lens of purpose, design, and legacy. Here, we believe purpose comes in different colors, shapes, sizes, and textures, because no two callings and journeys are ever the same. Hosted by Charissa Monroe Wilborn, this is where a purpose meets you where you are. Let's begin.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another great episode of the Purpose Finder podcast, where our mission is simple: to inspire you to find and uncover your purpose in life and to live a life overflowing with three things: meaning, fulfillment, and significance. Deep down, we all crave belonging. No one wants to feel unfulfilled, and we are all searching, asking that one big question: why in the world am I really here? Well, I hope you allow your search to end right here on the podcast. I am your host, Charissa Monroe Wilborn, and today I sit down with an incredible woman, friend of mine, sister from another mother. She is living a life of purpose boldly. No, seriously. Her journey, her lessons, the challenges that she has overcome along the way, you will get to hear all of what her life has entailed and how she is living her life truly on purpose. Let's welcome Candera Lomax, excuse me, Dr. Candera Lomax. Candy, I have to get used to the doctor part. This is new.
It's new to me too.
She just recently graduated with her doctorate degree. You'll hear a lot more of her story, but welcome to the podcast, Candera. Thank you so much for being here.
Charissa, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So please, let's dive right in. They don't want to necessarily hear me read a bio, but I do want you, from your heart, tell us, who is Candera Lomax? Where are you from? What do you do? All that good stuff.
Great question. Well, Candera Lomax was born and raised in Nassau, Bahamas. And if you knew me growing up, everybody knew me as Kenny. Because from the time I was 2 and I could talk, I was on a stage somewhere singing. So I describe my life as life on a stage, because for the majority of my life, I was on a stage somewhere. And I may talk about a few of those stage moments later on. But my mother was 15 when I was born, and the community told her to abort me. And one of the things that I heard my mom say later in my life was that if she had a choice to make the same mistake and have the same child over again, she'd do it again. And that statement just warms my heart every time I recall it. My father was basically an absent father. He's deceased now, but I kind of grew up with that void, or that feeling of a void, wanting to be a daddy's girl and not even knowing what that looked like. And I would say I would describe my upbringing as filled and surrounded with community. I grew up in an extended family, lived with my grandmother, my mother, my cousins, my aunt. So everybody was in the house. I didn't know we were poor, but we were. I think it was in 11th grade that I sat in a math class with my math teacher, Mrs. McPhee, and I heard that if I got 5 BGCSEs with C's or above, that I could get a scholarship to go to college. And it was like, what? Really? I could go to college? She was like, yes, you can go to college. So I joined Teachers Cadet, and I passed my 5. I got more, but my minimum of 5 BGCSEs with C's or above. And I got a full scholarship to pursue my career in secondary education at the then College of the Bahamas, now the University of the Bahamas. And so I spent 4 years at COB at the time. And then I started my teaching career at age 20. That was my claim to fame. was 20 years old when I started my career. But I taught for 8 years at SC McPherson Junior School. Shortly after that, or shortly after starting my teaching career, I also started a young female mentoring program called Blossom International, and that simply rose out of a need for supporting young female development. Um, and so Blossom started, I got into writing and singing and poetry and all of these different things, but I kind of felt like there was something more that I wanted to get into. And so I sat down with my mentor and she asked, what's next for you? And she asked if I had considered college or pursuing my graduate studies. And so I think it was in 2014 that I asked for a meeting with your dad, Dr. Miles Monroe, and I said, Pastor, I think I want to go to school, and I think I want to pursue. I thought it was music at the time, and I basically quit everything I was doing in the church at the time. I was leading Sounds of Heaven and doing worship because I think it was like a transitioning moment for me or a transitioning season. Well, your father told me at the time, he said, you won't have any problems paying for school and getting through school. He said, go by faith and God will make a way. And he also said people were going to look for me to give me scholarships. And that's exactly what happened. A few months later, I received a $40,000 scholarship from the Life for Key Foundation as the Templeton Scholar for that year to attend Oral Roberts University. It was the first school that my spiritual father, Dr. Richard Pinder, had mentioned, but the first school I put to the furthest part of my mind. And today I'm here as an assistant professor in the Graduate School of Education. And it's still sometimes so surreal to me, but that's the journey that my life took. I came in 2015 to pursue my master's in counseling. After my master's, I went immediately into the doctoral program with a doctorate in educational leadership, uh, higher education administration. Sorry, I drew a blank there. And immediately after, I think it was about a year after, sorry, it wasn't immediately, or you requested that I come on board to join the faculty to develop the new Master of Education in School Counseling program. So I got to go down in history as the program developer for a program that ORU had been wanting to add for years. And so in a nutshell, that's who I am and where I'm at in my current journey.
Shout out to Oral Roberts University, aka
Yeah,
ORU, also my alma mater.
love
Um,
it.
we definitely have a kin there. So you gave us a very short,
Hmm.
well, I should say quick,
Hmm.
snapshot of life from the beginning to where you are now.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of in betweens. It's been a lot of
Hmm.
up and down. Some of them, I'm aware, as I know you well. And so I want us to get into some of the, because right now it's interesting to hear that you develop a counseling program there. You have your doctor from ORU, yet you started out by saying you came from a poor family,
Hmm.
had no idea you would be going to school. And here you are, having gone to school, having gone through school, and now you're giving back by making a way for other students coming.
Hmm.
And that alone just speaks to purpose.
Yeah.
That alone speaks to you not letting your past or your beginning
Hmm.
also dictate where you end up.
Hmm.
Do we forget about the past? No. Do we despise the beginnings? No. But it
Hmm.
doesn't have to be where we sit, doesn't have to be where we stay. And already, if you and I got cut off right now and no one heard anything, I know there are a lot of men and women who can see who can see their stories and their lives in your life right now.
Yeah.
Who come from poverty, who come from nothing, who come from, single parent homes, who come from no parents, who from no parent home, who come from, foster care, and they're thinking, man, is there something out there for me?
Mhm.
Can I have all the possibilities? Are there opportunities? Is there more? And so I would like for you to share, Candera, because I know sometimes when it's like that, imposter syndrome sets it.
Mhm.
So let's talk about what is imposter syndrome and
Mhm.
what does that look like for people who may be going through it? And then also share how you have managed to work through and then work beyond
Yeah.
imposter syndrome.
Yeah. Great question. So I'll start with defining imposter syndrome. And this is just, we'll call it a functional definition of imposter syndrome. I, Imagine putting on a gown and stepping on a stage to introduce yourself. And the first words that come out of your mouth are, "Hi, my name is so and I'm really not qualified to be here." That's what imposter syndrome is. You put
Mm,
on your best gown or your best qualifications or the best version of yourself. You work hard to get dressed. You work hard to be prepared. You work hard to be where you are. And as soon as you get there, there's this voice, this inner dialogue, or this feeling that you're really not qualified to be where you are, or you're really not who you say you are. And it
mm,
stems from different things. Um, for me, imposter syndrome stemmed, or I think it has, I would say it has roots in my upbringing, in my attachment styles, and also in this idea that there are expectations and standards that I have for myself and that people have for me that I have to meet. So it's these absolute thoughts or these absolute ways of thinking, these all or nothing polar opposites that you kind of struggle or that I kind of struggle to live in. Imposter syndrome, or this idea that I am not who I say that I am, or that people are going to find out
mm,
that I'm really not as smart as I think I am, or as qualified as I say I am. Um, that struggle kind of it shows up in different ways and at different times, but it's also not something that uh, just goes away automatically. I think it's something that you have to grow through or go through. If we were to give it a biblical tagline, I think of the Apostle Paul when he said, "There's this thorn in my flesh," and 3 times he asked the Lord to take it from him, and the Lord said, "Well, I'm not going to take it from you, but my grace is sufficient." And so I think it's for me, although I've worked through imposter syndrome for a long time or for many years, I think it's the thorn, but it's also the push or the fuel. And that's how I've been able to still show up in places or to show up in rooms and at least act like I belong there. Because even though there's this voice that I'm not qualified or that people are going to find out that I'm not as smart as I am, I still show up with confidence. It's
mm,
almost like a faking it till you make it type of
mm,
thing. But
mhm.
in a lot of instances, I'm not necessarily faking it. I'm just giving what I can or doing giving what I have or presenting what I have prepared for the moment.
Did you
Um,
always know that's what it was? Like,
no,
did you know in the moment that it was imposter syndrome, or do you know
mm,
that label only now?
yeah, I didn't always know it was imposter syndrome. I learned that language when I came to ORU, I think during the
Mm,
counseling program,
mhm.
because the program encourages you to do not just research, but do some inner searching and some
Self-work.
inner work. And
Mhm.
so I learned the terminology for it later in my life. Earlier on, I think I would have defined it as insecurity or maybe anxiety. Um, I might have even defined it back then as just being afraid,
Mhm.
because that's probably the best language I would have had at the time. Um,
Low
which was
self
interesting
esteem,
because, sorry, low
low
self
self
esteem.
esteem.
I'll tell you this quick story, Teresa. It was in middle school. We were graduating, and when you take your graduation pictures, you would share. Well, back then we used to share our pictures with our friends, and you would sign it and give it to a friend, and they would do the same for you. Well, one young lady took it upon herself to write me a poem. She wrote, and I quote, Candera, your self esteem is very low, but through the Lord it will grow. Build your self esteem within and show your haters you already win and do
Mm.
it to them with a grin. And to this day, I don't know why that poem was etched in my mind, but she was right. I really did have a low self esteem. Even though I was on the stage and performing and doing stuff, I had a low self esteem. I think my sense of self was tied very closely to what I did and not necessarily who I am. And so I've had to unlearn a lot.
Mm. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. And I
Yes.
think, oh, you're saying so much, and we don't have enough time to have a coaching session here with the people listening. But that is one thing I have learned from my coaches, and I think everyone, like if I can help anyone at any time, with rejection, with denial, with the term low self esteem, which I have a different perspective of now, is there's this dichotomy that we are as humans, as people. There is us as the person, and there's us as the performer. Two different. You know what? You and this clocking thing too. Come on, man. I'm just learning this new thing from
Both of just
these
felt
young
right, though. I
people.
had to bring it in.
I'm still getting used to this clocking thing. Oh my goodness. But they're two different concepts, not two different
Yeah.
people, but two different concepts. So I am a person.
Hmm.
I am who I am. I was born the way that I am. I have qualities, traits, characteristics. That's me as a person. I'm a growing, becoming person.
Yeah.
As a performer, that's skill, that's work, that's kind of how I perform and function and what I do. Those two concepts are different.
Very
And
different.
when you understand that your lack of functioning to a certain level has
Hmm.
nothing to do with the person that you are. Someone
Hmm.
rejecting a way you may perform is not them rejecting who you
Who
are.
you are. Yeah.
And there's a
Yeah.
difference. So I'm glad you
Wonderful.
brought it up. So then how did you figure that difference out? And then what did you do with it once you figured it out?
Love that question. Absolutely love that question. One of the first lessons I learned when I came to ORU was this very simple yet profound statement. You are a human being, not a
A
human
human
doing.
doing. Hmm.
And because it kind of differentiates the two, when I really wrapped my mind around that, my actions or my performances soared even more because then I separated what I do, what I did, or how I performed from who I
Who I
was.
am.
I
Hmm.
had to grapple with that even in terms of academic performance, because number one, I was on a scholarship. I had to maintain a certain GPA. The other, if I didn't maintain that GPA all throughout my college career, basically, if I didn't maintain that GPA, I was going to lose that scholarship. And so that drive that I had these external motivators. And so a lot of times it's like I would have ignored how I was feeling or just checking in with my heart. And so focused or hyper focused on what I was doing because hey, there were a lot of strings attached to the outcome. Nobody cared how I felt or who I was or what I was going through at the time. At least that's what I was telling myself, you know. So separating being a human being versus a human
Hmm.
doing. Um,
Big, big
yeah.
difference. And
Hmm.
so how have you, so now you're at a space where, and I don't want to say you don't grapple with imposter syndrome at all, because I think at
Hmm.
some point, as we are growing and moving in life, I
Yeah.
think we all experience it, even if just briefly.
Yeah.
especially when you start doing new things and you start doing bigger
Oh.
things.
Hmm.
I'm expecting some imposter syndrome to set in. It
Hmm.
just can't live there.
No.
How, now that you know what it is, how have you been able to manage it? How do you
Yeah.
see it? How do you see it and then catch it and say, okay, I got you, but I'm ahead of you?
Hmm.
And then how would you advise, or how do you encourage people today who
Hmm.
are dealing with and trying to even figure out, is this imposter syndrome that I'm dealing with? And how
Yeah.
do I overcome?
So remember that picture that I started with earlier, where you get dressed and you show up on this stage and you say, "Hello, my name is so and so, and I am not who I say that I am." Well, I want to go back to that getting dressed process, right? It's like um, uh, I went to a dressmaker and I asked this dressmaker to make something or design something that was just for me, just for my body type, right? And this dressmaker, he or she sketches the gown, takes all of my measurements. He was like, "Okay, yeah, this will work and that would work." And then I go ahead and I try it on and I like it, and I show up on the stage, right? And I show up with confidence because, hey, I look good and I feel good. And so the the thing here is, when I understand that the purpose for my life was uniquely designed for me and it fits me, or it is suitable for me, there is a degree of confidence that imposter syndrome cannot overshadow.
Mm,
And so, can the two exist together or coexist? They absolutely can.
absolutely.
You, I find that I live my best self not when I'm free of challenges, or not when I'm free of a sense of insecurity, or
Mm,
not when I'm fully free of imposter syndrome, but when I can uh, accept the reality of those challenges and still show up as my best self. And so I show up, knowing that as a designer designs a dress, God designed a purpose for my life, and I
mm,
look good in it. And if I look good in it and I feel like I look good in it, it doesn't matter if the audience thinks I look good in it.
mm,
It doesn't matter, you know.
mm-hmm.
And so I think uh, that's my current reality. Not that the imposter syndrome has been eradicated, but that, hey, when I look in the mirror, when I search my heart and I know that I am X in the room that God opened for me, or in places or in meetings, or in areas or in countries that God chose for me to be in, I can show up as my best self because my designer designed this moment for me.
For you.
And that kind
And
of takes
you're
some of the pressure off.
absolutely. And you're at the, what I'm going to call one of the apex of your life as a new doctor, just completing your doctorate degree. And now you're sitting chair for other doctoral students. You've developed this program at ORU, one of the best schools in that region. Like, to me, you're sitting high, but you have experienced along your life, Candera, some lows. You were sharing with me backstage, having gone through some health issues. You're also one who has been, uh I remember having conversations of love with you, and wanting to find a husband, and now you at that place where you now have been recently married, but that place of, am I ever going to get married? Like that low of, like, maybe love isn't for me. Am I ever going to find love? And then also the lows of rejection that you have mentioned. And so I would love for you to talk about those three things. They're all different loads, but because I know there are other people who, you have folks who are feeling rejected, you have folks who are having health issues, you have those women out there who are single and they're getting up in life, and they're like, am I going to find love? Is love for me? And I kind of want to have all those different people kind of see themselves in your story, but also see how you have made it through and out and where you are.
I think that's the beauty of life, right? The beauty of
Mhm.
our walk, our purpose. Like it's not a straight line. It's not a stream of just light flowing water, sometimes it's a storm, you know and the road to purpose, it's sometimes filled with a lot of uncertainty, even as you pursue your dreams, even as you go after the things that God told you to go after. One of those things for me was my doctorate. Shortly after my master's degree, I heard the Holy Spirit say, keep going. I thought I was going to be back in the Bahamas on a beach somewhere shortly after finishing my master's, but the Lord said to keep going, and I did. And of course, imposter syndrome was in the back of my mind. Who are you to pursue a doctorate degree? Who are you to be Dr. Candera Gilbert at the time? Who are you? And I'm like, well, I don't know who you think I am. I don't even know who I think I am at the time. All I know is that the Lord told me to keep going. And I did. And it was in 2020. I had just defended we call it the defensive proposal, when you submit to the grad council um, an idea of what you want to study and how you plan to carry out this research. And I knew I wanted to study rejection, specifically rejection sensitivity. And so I did my defensive proposal. I passed the defensive proposal. 2 days later, I flew to Omaha for a surgery. Shortly after that surgery, 30 days to be exact, I had to fly back to Omaha for a second surgery. And I remembered sitting in my friend's basement, recovering from that second surgery. With the pain rocking my body, I emailed my dissertation chair with the subject line, I quit. And I remembered my chair telling me at the time, don't make a decision or permanent decision when you're this emotional. See, as you're pursuing purpose, it's not going to be a straight line all the time. It's not going to be void of challenges. One of the things I learned from that low moment was don't do life alone. Don't go through life alone. Build relationships, and genuine relationships with people who could call you out if you need correction, who could support you if you need to be uplifted, and who could pray you through. And so my chair didn't just advise me at the time. She and I met, I think it was weekly, and she wasn't interested in the action items or the checklist of things that I needed to do. She was interested in me and finding out if I was okay. And I think I definitely attribute a lot of my success to her, because it felt like she carried me on her back as I crossed the finish line. And so 2 years later, I walked across the stage as the most outstanding doctoral candidate of the year, simply because somebody didn't give up on me and I didn't give up on myself, despite the lows, despite the challenges. Um, and so I studied rejection sensitivity, but I lived through rejection. My father, I think it was probably in the first maybe 7 years of my life, my mom wanted me to try to build a relationship with him. And my mother decided to have me spend a weekend with him. And he abused me. My biological father, molested me as a child. And that moment, um, I think it set a precedence for rejection in my life, because it felt like the person who was supposed to protect me, like Mephibosheth in the book of Second Samuel, dropped me. And I think the impact of that fall was felt almost all throughout my life, until I dealt with it, until I addressed it. Because the only solution for rejection is acceptance. And God determined that before you were born in your mother's womb, He said, I knew you, I called you by name. He said that He knit us together in our mother's womb. And when I realized how intentional the Lord was about building acceptance into place before rejection could actually occur, then my life started to take a turn. Um, and so, in summation, what is rejection or rejection sensitivity? Rejection is a common human experience, right? We all go through it. But people respond differently to when they hear the word no, or when they perceive that someone isn't for them, or when someone is rejecting them. So rejection sensitivity is this heightened sense that, hey, I don't belong or I'm not being accepted. Even if rejection isn't actually occurring, there's this heightened sense that, hey, I'm going to be rejected. Or like it's like you walk into a room, into a party, and people are talking, and you want to go and say hi to a group of people who you may be familiar with, but because they're already talking, you decide, I'm not going to go over there because I don't want to be rude, or I don't want to interrupt, or they might not want to talk to me anyway. I mean, it might sound it might sound like it's harmless, but sometimes it's connected to something deeper. The research suggests that rejection sensitivity is connected to insecure attachment relationships in early life experiences. So, an insecure attachment with the mother, or an insecure attachment with the father, or repeated exposure to abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, repeated exposure to trauma, all of those things can contribute to the presence of rejection sensitivity. And although rejection is a common human experience, the heightened sense that you are being rejected, even if you may not actually be rejected, is rejection sensitivity. And it's something that I think it's in the DSM-5 as rejection sensitivity dysphoria, or on Google as as a as an actual like mental health uh, let's disease, for lack of a better word. And there's help for it. I'm still in therapy, because Jesus and therapy. Amen. So
Hello.
yeah. Um, I think I touched on all of your points. Well, no, I did not. I skipped.
Married,
I
yes.
went for the first. To the first point and the third point, but I skipped the middle point because I think
Before we
this is
go,
the. Uh huh.
before we get to the marriage, let's
Uh
talk
huh.
about. I want to sit here for a little bit because,
Okay.
um, and I'm you said something that I want to make sure that the people in the back hear. You
Okay.
said you pretty much gave the anecdote
Mm-hmm.
to rejection, that being
Yeah.
acceptance, but
Yeah.
also something you did mention too that I also want to bring to that equation is also addressing it. If you want to talk about the A's, you have addressing and you have acceptance. And so many times we don't want to address a lot of things, whether it's rejection, whether it's guilt, shame, grief. That was my didn't want to touch it season. But it took you a while. It took you some time to address the trauma. It took you some time to address what you had gone through to even address where rejection came from, which unfortunately had to take you back to really where it was started, where it rooted. And can you speak to that? Speak to how painful it may have been, but also how important it was to address the rejection, but also address the root in order to get to the level of acceptance that you're at now.
Hey, purpose seekers. If today's conversation has you thinking about your purpose, what it is, how to find it, and how to truly live it, then I have something special just for you. Introducing the Purpose Finder Formula. And you have free access to this 20-minute training designed to help you uncover your purpose and start living it with confidence. No fluff, no guesswork. It's clear, practical, step-by-step guide to finding meaning and gaining clarity and direction. Your purpose is calling. Are you ready? Head over to www.charissamunro.com/purpose finder formula. Enter your info and I'll send it straight to your inbox. Imagine waking up every day knowing your life has meaning, impact, and joy. That's what awaits you. So don't wait. Grab your free training today. Let's get back to the episode.
That's so good. That's so good. So, yes, acceptance is the antidote for rejection, but also doing your own work, right? Or doing my own work. What did that look like for me? So, before I came to ORU, I started therapy, right? In Sandyport in Nassau. I saw a therapist, and one of the assignments she gave me was to envision or to imagine myself as the child that was traumatized. And she asked me to sit down and allow myself to pretend to be that child and to write a letter to the adult version of myself. And I realized that because I had suppressed and ignored my inner child for so long, when it was time to write, my inner child was muted. It was like she was exiled. And so later on, I figured out what that technique was connected to. And it's something that I use in my professional development to enhance self awareness. And it's called transactional analysis. Some people also, because it's very similar to internal family systems, but not to get too technical, addressing addressing your inner child starts with firstly identifying where did he or she get stuck. Where did I get stuck? And I had to give my inner child space by telling her, hey, you are safe. It's okay. You can tell me what happened to you. I'm going to be here with you. So it's like my adult self turned toward my child self and just gave her space. She wasn't ready to talk initially. And I told her that was okay. At some point, it was just tears. And I sat with myself as I saw myself process this trauma, right? And so with transactional analysis as a way to enhance awareness, it's like you are identifying what those emotions are that's connected to that particular event or series of events, right? Um, and then you're trying to be the adult in the room by pulling in the perspectives, perhaps the parent perspectives or that logical, critical side, and the perspectives of the child or that emotional, perhaps fragile side. And you're going to be the adult. You're going to acknowledge both perspectives, and then you're going to move forward and come up with a solution. That way, you become your whole integrated self. Um,
And is it
that's
just to, I
Go ahead.
want to make sure we pitch pieces for everyone. So is it me? Does that mean that those pieces were missing at the time? Like in the reality as a child, was there a non-logical, critical part missing in the room with
hmm
the child?
Are you talking about during the particular event or during
Yes,
the time when I sat to
yes,
process the event? That's a
during the
good
time.
question.
Hmm.
That's a good question. I'm gonna say I'm not sure what it is for everyone, but for me as that child, that parent mode or the adult mode definitely wasn't there because I
Wasn't in the
wasn't an
room.
adult yet, right? And I was there alone as the child, right? With the person who's supposed to be protecting and caring for me. So I would say I was only in child mode at the
Right.
time. I hadn't had enough life experience yet to develop the parent mode or even the adult mode. Now, as an adult, when I started to do this work, then I could say I had the child mode, I had the parent mode, and I had the adult mode. And so, if I'm talking to adults, we now as adults have the capacity to examine those different modes. Uh, but I think one of the things it does, since you asked me that question, it gives me a sense of compassion, even more compassion for my inner child. Like she didn't have the physical nor mental
Capacity.
tools to protect herself. All
Exactly.
she knew how to do was dissociate or to go somewhere else safe in her mind. And dissociation followed me throughout my life.
And
I still struggle with
sometimes
being present.
that is what our inner child needs to hear for
Yeah.
our adult person, for
hmm
our adult side to be
hmm
okay.
Okay.
Because
Absolutely.
sometimes we carry the guilt and the shame
hmm
that as a child, our adult self is
hmm
saying, as a child, you should have done something,
Yes.
or you should have known something, or you should have,
Mhm.
when as a child, you don't. there's someone protecting you. You can't
Mhm.
protect yourself. You don't know how to react. You don't know what to say. You didn't do anything that there's this
Mm.
thing of, did I do something to make this happen to me? No, you are a child. There was nothing
Yeah,
you did. You just had an adult who did something that violated you and you didn't do anything. So sometimes the child, and I love when we do inner work as an
yeah,
adult because it allows us to heal ourselves.
yeah.
And it also allows us to get the help that we need from God above and then also from counselors and therapy because now we get to talk to our inner child we've been pushing away for so long and say, like,
It's okay.
it is okay. You were a
Hmm.
child, you didn't know, and I've come to set you free. And I think the other term that I hear as we go through this process that you're talking about, and a lot of people are walking, a lot of adults, a lot of
Hmm.
us as adults, because I'm an adult to walk around. We may be 47, 57, 37, but we are arrested at 5.
Absolutely.
We are still walking around arrested at 12 because
Yeah.
something happened that
Hmm.
arrested our development. And so we are just growing up in number, in age,
Hmm.
but we're still, for lack of a better word, stuck
Yeah.
in what happened to us when we were 3 and 5 and 12 and 15 and 20.
Yeah.
And it takes inner work. It takes and I'm saying this because it takes you deciding to address. I can tell right now that as an adult, I am not at full capacity. Will I allow myself to address what needs to be addressed, even if it means I need to go back and meet myself at 12, at 10,
Yes.
at
Yeah.
5? And sometimes we don't want to because, like you said, for a long time, your inner child said nothing.
Hmm.
She didn't know what to say. Then she didn't know what to say. And even now, she didn't know what to say.
Hmm.
Or she didn't know if she can express herself and
Mm.
how she can express herself. So you
Hmm.
as the adult now need to give her the space, like you said. There may be a tears, but now say,
Hmm.
hey, here you have the opportunity. Here's how can we talk? Can we speak? But I will give you all the time that you need. And even though it's been 30 years later, there's still time for you to hear, for us to hear you. Let's talk.
I love that. I love that internal dialogue. And guess what? If you find yourself having that internal dialogue with your inner child at different ages, that's okay. I when I started this work, I started with my inner child at 2. Then when I revisited it, my inner child was at 7. Then when I revisited it, my inner child was at 11. Now, life happens, things happen, and then you kind of integrate those different parts depending on what you're working through. But it's okay to revisit. It is okay to revisit. Does it mean that those parts weren't integrated? Not necessarily, right? We are complex human beings. And so if I resolved something or one part of my childhood at age 7, but there were some other parts that were unresolved, if it's still showing up, it's okay for me to circle back and give my 7-year-old time and space. I'll give you a story. And this is a very vulnerable part of my life. But I'll share it because it really helped me. So imagine, and a lot of people, there was this whole Me Too movement, right? A lot of women, maybe even men, would be able to identify with this. Uh, of course, I was molested by my father, and you would imagine how that impacted me emotionally and even um, mentally, and how that shows up within the context of marriage. So that's where I'm going to go for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So, quick backstory: my husband and I met on Match. I was 35, and I think Herbert was about to be 40. And so we met later on in life. We courted, got engaged, and married, I think within 10 months. Because by that time, we were just like, look, you,
You ain't got time to waste.
I, have no time. We don't have no time. And also, we were long distance. He was in St. Louis, and I was in Tulsa, and so we found the need to kind of close in that gap because long distance relationships are hard, and the longer you are apart, it makes the coming together and that forming that attachment a bit more difficult. Well, anyway, I thought that because I had read the books by Miles Monroe about the purpose and power of woman, and because I had attended all of the seminars, that I knew exactly what was happening. But oh my gosh, the day you say I do, it's like the angels sing, but also your trauma starts singing. And my sexual trauma started to sing very loudly within the context of my marriage. And so my husband and I, of course, we went to marriage therapy, but it wasn't until I did my own individual work. I stood in the shower one day and I said to my inner child, "Thank you for what you did to keep me safe all of those years." I said to her, "Thank you for keeping yourself pure," because you know purity culture was booming in the 80s, in the 90s, and I grew up in that era. I said, "Thank you for the work that you did to be the good girl, right? To do the good things, to do things by the book." And then I said to her, "If you will allow me, I, I can take it from here. I got this." And that's
Wow.
how I was
Wow.
able to heal my inner child so that I could show up in a way that it was healthy and in order to support the health of my marriage.
Hmm.
And it was a game changer. It was an absolute game changer.
And
And
did
every
that
now and
change
then,
everything sexually?
said it again,
Did that then change everything sexually?
game changer.
My guy happy.
Bless God. Oh, we bless God.
That's it.
I mean,
I'm
and
sorry.
it's a very vulnerable thing to say, but because I know I'm not the only one.
Right. Right.
Between sexual trauma and purity culture, my uh how I showed up sexually in our marriage was wasn't helpful and healthy for the health of our marriage. And so I had to do some work. I had to do some work. And so it just goes back to what we were talking about earlier. We talked about two things: acceptance being the antidote for rejection, but also doing the
Addressing.
work,
Addressing it.
yeah, to address it.
Addressing it. But here you are married. And again, these are different, these are things that you've wanted in life.
Hmm.
You wanted to find love. You wanted to be married. I'm sure you want to have children. You wanted to have more restored health. You
Hmm.
wanted to go to school. And then you decided, you had a light bulb moment
Hmm.
with when your calling, I
Hmm.
want to say began, but your calling when you accepted your calling,
Yeah. Yeah.
your life's calling. And I want you to share that moment with
Yeah.
those listening.
Yeah. So years ago, um, I think it was in 2008, your dad preached a message. It was called "How to Conceive, Believe, Protect, and Deliver Your Divine Assignment to Planet Earth." uh, that was the subtitle. The main title was "Life Lessons from the Incarnation," and he used the story of Mary, and how she conceived Jesus, and he just broke down how the story was related to us finding and unleashing our purpose. I listened to that message for an entire year. It was on a CD player in my car, and I listened to it for an entire year because that was the year I was really in search of, hey God, what is my purpose and what was I going to do?
Mm,
Well, I was asked to join a core group of women, um, in an organization called Focus Woman International. And it was in this Focus Woman group, core group meeting, that I was given an assignment. And the assignment was to recruit young professionals to join Focus Woman. So there I was sitting in the boardroom feeling really insecure because I was surrounded by professionals people who had been in their fields for years, married women with children and grandchildren who had success in business and careers, you name it. I was surrounded. And here I was, just a new teacher at the time. And I'm like, what am I even doing here? But they asked me to be the person to recruit young professionals. And I sat in that boardroom meeting after after the president, Dr. Bethel, uh, after she had given me the assignment, I said, "That's it." I literally said that out loud in the meeting. This wasn't my meeting, you know. I literally said, "That's it. That's what I'm supposed to be doing." And everybody looked at me. But then the meeting kept going, and I went home, and it was like the Holy Spirit downloaded blossoms to me. And he said, I want you to establish communities of young women who are aware of their beauty, purpose, and destiny, who channels their discoveries to be agents of change in their world. That's what I want you to do. And then Blossoms was born. But it was born as a result of me being in an environment surrounded by other women who knew and understood and were executing their purpose.
But it was
That
also
was the light bulb
born
moment.
with
Mhm.
you in an environment where you didn't think you belong.
There it is.
You didn't
Wow.
even think that you should be there. You're wondering. It's like in imposter syndrome had set in.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
it was almost as though it was a space where he blossomed you.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And in that imposter syndrome was right there in the room, but even
mm,
in the midst of it, purpose was born.
wow.
Even
Wow.
in the midst of it. And to this
Ladies, are
day,
you
I
hearing this?
credit me. Huh?
Ladies, are you hearing this? I'm making sure that the women are listening
Yeah.
to this. Are you hearing yourself? Are you seeing
Mm-hmm.
your current situation? Are you seeing your current season in life? Are you seeing your
Yeah.
reality right now show up here? And then also, are you hearing the part that, but even in the midst of where you are right now, there's
Mhm.
purpose, there's hope, there's the opportunity to blossom.
Yeah.
Like my desire, Kadira, for this podcast is so that
Mm-hmm.
men, women, boys, and girls can
Mm-hmm.
make a conscious decision
Yeah.
to eradicate excuses for
Wow.
living out their life's purpose. Like that
Wow.
would be like that just downloaded just now to me.
Wow.
But that is what I want
Yeah. Take away
because
the excuse.
there is so much going on in life, in society, in the world
Mm-hmm.
around us, or even in our home that if we're not careful, we will get caught up in what's being taken from us versus what we can
Mm.
give.
That's so
And so
good.
when we get caught up on what can be taken from us, then we want to hold on to everything as
Yeah.
opposed to allowing ourselves the freedom to let me give of who God created me to be.
Yeah.
And I want people to be able to say, you know what, man, if she can do it, if she can go through the childhood trauma like I did, if she can go through the health issues like I did, if she can come from
Mhm.
poverty but still go to school and now be a doctorate and also giving back to the school, if she can do it, then so can I.
Yeah.
If he can do it, then so can I. So
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate your vulnerability, and I hope that people are listening to to you talk about the fears, the rejection, the imposter syndrome being right there,
Mm-hmm.
but it being the perfect for it being the perfect moment for God saying, "This is the seed that I'm about to blossom," and then I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
use her to blossom others, or to
Yeah.
help others blossom and open and become the beautiful flower that they are, so that they can live towards their destiny. Like this is warms my heart. Warms my heart to know that this particular podcast. I don't know about other podcasts, but this one is
Mm-hmm.
going to change the lives of those listening
Yeah.
because of your story, not me, but because of your story and your obedience and your life and your resilience and your empowerment of yourself. And then also you accepting, I love this word, accepting your calling
Yeah.
so that you can help other women in the world. And it just makes me happy to know that, like, you've gone through some stuff, Kendira. You've gone
Hmm.
through valley after valley after valley. But in order for you to get from one valley, like, I just had a another interview with a very, very beautiful guest. And one of the things she was talking about, in order for you to get to the top, you have to go through valleys. Like, in
Yeah.
order you to get to any mountaintop, you can get to all of them, but you have to go up and down, up and down. And even you've gone through valleys and you've gone through valleys, and people are saying, man, I can't get a break. Every time I look, I'm knocked down. Every time I think I'm getting up, I'm knocked down. Well, in order
Hmm.
for you to get from one valley to the next, you have to hit the top of a mountain.
Yeah.
So, what top of the mountain are you taking for granted?
Wow.
Because if you're only going to talk about the valleys you're in, if you're only going to talk about every time I look, there's a valley and I'm in the dark and I have this going on and this adversity and this challenge, take a minute. Okay, you went from one challenge to the next. Okay, talk to me about the mountain in between that you had to get over to the top and then
Hmm.
over to get to this other challenge.
Wow.
Or are we going to complain all the time?
Complaining
And
gets you nowhere.
it doesn't. It doesn't actually. It actually causes you to get stuck, to be
Hmm.
stuck. And so, as we close, because time is just moving too fast. Actually, I wish it would slow down for a second, because this is such a lovely, rich conversation we're having, and I want people to get it. I wish I had a segment where I could have people kind of call in and ask questions, because I know they would have questions.
Yeah.
Because I want you to be able to, people are dealing with imposter syndrome and they want to know, how do I get over it? They're dealing with not living to their full potential. They're dealing with the struggling with finding their calling, and what is my purpose, and what if I'm struggling, and they want to know, like, what are practical ways and what are practical steps. So if you can give like 3 practical steps, if you will, to
Hmm.
someone listening who's trying to overcome imposter syndrome, who's trying to overcome rejection, who's
Hmm.
trying to overcome uncertainty, please share with us.
Okay. So I'm gonna go back to that picture of the dress, um, because if you understand, firstly, you have to understand that your designer made and designed a purpose just for you. Dr. Jerry Horner, years ago, he did a Kingdom Summit at BFM, and he used the story of Gideon and how he said Gideon was a coward. And the Lord, he said the Bible says in Judges chapter 6 somewhere that the Spirit of the Lord was upon Gideon, and then Gideon became this mighty man of valor. And how the actual translation of that scripture is that the Lord clothed himself with Gideon. He wore Gideon like a garment, and then Gideon was able to execute his purpose for him. And so my first point is this: not only does God have a purpose for you that fits you like a garment, but he also clothes himself with you, and you become the tool or the instrument in his
That
hand.
he
And so
uses. Mm.
whenever imposter syndrome or rejection sensitivity tries to overtake and overwhelm you, just remember and remind yourself that the Spirit of the Lord clothes himself with you, or you have a purpose that's uniquely designed for you. And so if ever you aren't sure of what this garment looks like, if you don't understand the specifics of it, go to the designer. Ask the Lord, who am I? Why am I here? What is it that you would have me to do? And then, after you get an understanding of what that purpose is, I would say the second thing would be accepting it. I think that's what you were saying, Charissa. That means even if it's too big at the time, even if you feel like this, I'm too small, or if you see yourself small and insignificant and insecure. Even if this thing feels bigger than you, that's perfect, because then you know that it's something that you can't accomplish on your own. You need the strength of God to grow you in size, or to grow you in your sense of acceptance, or to grow you in your sense of self, to be able to walk in your purpose. So after you get an understanding of it from the designer, and you accept it, you own it.
Hmm.
Own it. Walk that thing out like you know that the Spirit of the Lord is clothing Himself with you, and that you are executing the purpose that He called you to execute. So those are my
Love
three. I
it.
have
Hope you guys
lots of
have
others,
those
but those are
three.
top three.
Get understanding,
Hmm.
accept, and then
Accept it.
own it. Own
Own
it.
it.
Oh, Candera, that is powerful. Let me be the first to say powerful, powerful. Oh, ladies, especially my ladies, but both ladies and gentlemen, because I know there are men as well, though they may not express as often. Men go through these same things. This is not just about females. This is about the male man as well, who may be dealing with imposter syndrome and rejection. And I know you guys cover it better than we do as women who are emotional beings, but I will not leave a man out, because you are also emotional beings, and you deserve the same level, if not greater level of compassion and empowerment, encouragement, and hope. So if you are listening, men and women, to this episode, you have heard resilience from Candera, you've heard strength from Candera, you've heard empowerment from Candera, you've heard compassion through her story, and the lessons that she has allowed herself as now the adult to walk through, and then also walk others through. So I hope that you take what you need from this particular conversation to up level your life, to make the decisions to heal, and to do the inner work that's needed for your inner child to rest, so that as an adult you can be living in your calling towards your destiny. Kendira, one of the things you've done all for the last hour is talk about this dress. This dress. I will not forget the dress analogy. Let's talk about your book that is entitled Rock That Dress, Embracing Your
Rock that
Unique
dress.
Design. Please tell us about
Yes,
the
rock
book.
that
Tell
dress.
us where we can find the book, where they can purchase.
So rock that dress, embracing your unique design, is uh it's a baby of mine. And it's actually, if I'm honest, it's one of the things that I'm really insecure about. That it's one of the things that I struggle with imposter syndrome about, especially because I wrote it when I was so young. And so now, having lived more life, I'm like, well, is this really that good? Is this okay? But I'm going to invite viewers or listeners to shoot me an email at clomax at CLOMAX at oru.edu, and I'd be happy to send you a copy of Rock That Dress, Embracing Your Unique Design. They're not available on Amazon yet or on a website yet, but that's okay, because as time goes by, we're going to get there.
Well,
But
I'm waiting
yes,
on Rock That Dress Part 2.
I know, right? Me too.
Hello, let's, because I love the fact that you said you were so young when you wrote it. Now I would love to I would love to see that book unfold now that you have so much life experience. So then what does part 2 sound like and look like? But yes, give Candira an email if you're interested. She will send you the book. Candira, thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
for
for
having
giving so much of yourself today.
me.
You
Mhm.
have shared some information that I didn't even know. So congratulations on all of your endeavors, on all of your accomplishments. Um, we love and appreciate you for who you are becoming, for the work that you're doing for women, and yeah, thank you for being here. And I
Thank
know that
you,
lives
Joseph.
are being changed. You're welcome, most welcome.
Thank you for being a light. Thank you for being a voice. Thank you for being a sister and a friend. I appreciate you too. And I know that it's a blessing to have you in my corner.
Absolutely, always, always, and every day. So before we end, I love to end on a note that brings people together. It brings most people joy. It brings me joy anyway.
Mhm.
And that's food.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So I like to ask my guests, what is your favorite dish, favorite food, and what is your favorite restaurant?
My favorite food and my favorite restaurant. Can I just say that I love a good count snack?
Ah, yes.
A,
Yes.
a good a good count snack from Bamboo Shack.
And
It's a,
girl, I've been going home. I was trying to get conch snack and they ain't gonna have no conch. I said, then why you open? Close
the
down.
nerve,
Close
the
the
nerve to
nerve.
still be open without the count snack.
Yes, cracked conch. For those of you who may not know, cracked conch. Well, so conch is a Bahamian delicacy
Hmm.
in the Bahamas, and cracked conch is when they beat it and then they deep fry it with batter.
Oh, yes.
Oh, you eat it with some French fries and some ketchup and mayonnaise and onions. If you that type of person,
Uh-huh.
okay. What's your favorite restaurant then?
If I'm gonna get crack conch, I want it from Bamboo Shack
Uh-huh.
or from Oandros.
Okay.
That's or right from my mommy's kitchen.
So out by Arawaki in the Bahamas.
Rookie.
So for
Yes.
those who are interested in what we're talking about, make sure you visit the Bahamas, which is also, according to my dad, the late Dr. Miles Monroe, it is what, Candera? The
The
place
place where
where
God
God
lives.
lives. Candera, thank you so much, guys. Welcome to another great episode of the Purpose Finder podcast. I am your host, Charissa Monroe Wilborn, and until next time, see you soon. Bye.
That brings us to the end of today's episode of the Purpose Finder podcast. If this conversation resonated with you and added value, take a moment to like, share, and leave a comment. We would love to hear what inspired you. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Thank you for spending this time with the Purpose Finder podcast. We'll see you in the next episode.